it's also something which is very, very close to my heart. In fact, in many ways, I'd say that I've come to this place with a few but very important priorities to me. My head priorities are probably cheaper housing and cheaper energy, but my heart priority would be the NDIS and looking after disabled in my community. I have a very close family member who is autistic and who we decided as a family that we wouldn't pursue applying through the NDIS, because I know through the work that I've done in the community that the supports they would have got through the NDIS just would not have been worth the headache and the hassle of going through that process of diagnosis and making an application and going through that torturous project. But as it is said, the NDIS is the only lifeboat in the ocean, and with everybody trying to climb on it because there's nothing else there, it has also collapsed this system. And so I did promise never to read from my phone a speech, but as it was literally 39 minutes before I walked into this chamber, I got a message here, a follow-up message from a constituent that I tried to help last year. She came to me, saw me in my office with her 3-year-old child, her 3-year-old autistic child who non-verbal, was biting. It was so difficult for her to even have a conversation with me while she was trying to manage his behaviour, that it was just unfathomable what it must be like for her every day trying to manage that behaviour alone. So she saw me because she was about to run out of funding for her child, who was in a specialist daycare centre, because of course there are very few daycare centres that are set up to take kids with those sorts of behaviours. And she was desperately worried that she was going to lose the funding for that childcare. As a result, that would mean that she would have to leave her job, and because of that, it would mean that she would then be living in a car with her severely disabled 3-year-old child. And try as hard as we might to help, I got this message 39 minutes before I walked into this chamber, and she is going to say it better than I could. It's a little bit, there's a couple of spelling mistakes and that I just might stumble through it a bit, but the sentiment will be clear. Sorry I haven't reached out. My son and I have had a rough few months. After we spoke last, the provider spoke with me and told me a week before Christmas that my son needs the funding if he wanted to return this year. I was devastated. I didn't have time to organise a review or even try to do anything. My housing arrangements fell through because I had to leave work and my son was no longer in care, and the person I was living with could not handle him. We lived in our car for a week before YFS put us in emergency housing. We have been in a motel for 2 months now, with my son's behaviour getting worse and no end in sight. I'm really not okay, and I can't get anyone to understand or help. I'd probably be best to leave my contribution as that, because I'm not going to be able to say anything. I think none of us could say anything that would match the power of that. And that is a story that, as MPs, I'm sure we see it all the time. And it's just, it is unfathomable what people are going through. And I was very pleased for the contribution from the member for Fadden. And I think there is a genuine sense that we all want to make this work. And it was really very good to hear him list those things that really the opposition is setting as preconditions to support thriving kids. Not that a first-term MP like me is going to be able to hold the government to any of them, but I'm sure the sentiment is something that we all agree on. And I hadn't understood what the opposition's position was on this, and so I am very, very pleased to hear the member for Fadden go through that. I think in our area, in the electorate I represent in Ford, there's something like, and these figures are 3 or 4 years old now, but there's something like 7,000 people on the NDIS. You compare that to another electorate, an inner-city electorate, in fact, of Griffith. I remember the comparison there was something like 3,500 people on the NDIS. So in a working-class area like Ford, you've got twice as many people as you do in an inner-city electorate. In the schools in Ford, there's the Eagleby South State School and Waterford West State School, and I never quite get the term right. I think it's called an inclusion term or something, but generally it means kids with disabilities. Something like over 40% of every child at that school has a disability. 40%. So, I mean, not only is that all of those families and all of those kids are really, set back to begin with, but the 60% of the kids in that classroom with them are also struggling with the behaviours. The teachers are struggling with those behaviours, and it holds the whole community back. And so while there are 7,000 people in Ford who are actually getting the NDIS, it probably makes you think maybe there's another 7,000 people that should be getting the NDIS. But the scheme was never meant for that. And in fact, one number I know comes to mind is that the Productivity Commission said that the NDIS in Queensland was supposed to cater for about 95,000 people. Right now there's 175,000 people. It's totally unsustainable. And we all know in this place that when a scheme like that is unsustainable as it is, it will lose community support. And so it is vital, in order to maintain that support, that the community have faith that it is actually returning value for money, doing what it's supposed to do. So I suppose I've got 10 minutes. I could go on forever with the problems. There's one other problem I suppose I would just want to say, which is that even with all of this money being spent and all of these participants in the system, there are still businesses going out of business. They still can't make the money work. The Catholic Church's arm, I'm not sure whether it was called Centacare, but anyway, the Catholic Church's arm in Queensland that were looking after it have exited the field because they could not make it work. With a scheme costing, $50 billion a year, somewhere around there, they couldn't make it work. So it is something is going wrong from the end to the beginning, and there has to be changes. Those changes, as have been mentioned, they are causing anxiety in the community. And so again, it was very good to hear the opposition's contribution, that people need to know the kids aren't going to be worse off, that anybody who's getting the NDIS at the moment is going to continue to get the NDIS for a start. But this is about not trying to just shove people back into a dark corner, which is what existed prior to the NDIS, but it is about trying to come up with something better. And it may be at the school level, though of course they won't be able to cope with everything. It may be back at the community level, though they will need to be better resourced. But there is definitely, what is true is that it's not working now, and we have to come up with something else. While I've got a minute, there are many people in Ford that do an incredible amount of personal advocacy. One of them is Shannon Manning, who I want to give a shout out today. She is a mum who has well and truly real-life experience with one severely disabled child and a younger autistic child as well. If there is any woman who is an example of how you do not lose if you keep on fighting, it is Shannon Manning. And she fights not only for herself, and when I say herself I mean her kids and her family, but she fights for many parents that I send her way as well, including the woman that sent me that text today. And obviously we lost that fight, but together I think this parliament, people in the community with good spirit will keep fighting, we'll keep winning for the thousands, millions, the 20% of people in Australia that live with a disability.
Thank you. The debate is adjourned and the resumption of the debate is